Good evening and salutations. Today I'm going to convince you that you should not watch One Piece in any capacity. Now, before you go in the comments and argue with me and say that I'm a psychopath and you love One Piece and Luffy is your favorite character, that's right, I'm not going to say Luffy, as there's some people say. As a matter of fact, I'm going to say Akai Inu. That's right, I say it correctly, not Akainu. Learn how to pronounce names correctly. It's embarrassing. You're a grown man and a grown woman. I'm sick of you. You're a grown person. I know there's a third gender out there and there's many others, and I know you're going to comment that as well. I'm here to tell you indefinitely why you should watch everything else besides One Piece. You should not indulge in this long, lengthy series. Now, let's go through a few common complaints that I'm probably going to hear immediately to get this out the way because this is a very long video. So let's start with the initial thing. Oh, One Piece is too long. It's an incredibly long series. It's got over 1,000 episodes, 1,000 chapters. It's ridiculous. In order to address this in full effect, I need to bring up other series in order to further illustrate my point. Let's start with one of my favorite series of all time, Dragon Ball Z. Yes, you probably assumed that, and immediately, based upon my hair and its Dragon Ball Z-esque vernacular and how it goes and its stylistic choices, you can see right here, this is Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z aired for about, 3 years. Dragon Ball, that's the initial start. Dragon Ball aired right there. Then Dragon Ball Z aired for 7 years. Dragon Ball is the basis of pretty much every anime you've ever seen, but its basis relies on the journey to the west, where Sun Wukong, the initial Monkey King, went on a journey of Buddhahood in order to challenge the world, in order to fight demons. This journey spans from hundreds and hundreds of chapters, and it is a long, enduring epic that is significantly longer than One Piece, I feel. It is a wide-spanning narrative that goes on for eons and eons and eons. It is amazing, and it is the general main impetus for Dragon Ball Z. So, a lot of people like to say Dragon Ball Z has been going on for over 20 years. I like to argue this all the time. For instance, after Dragon Ball Z was over, it just took a break. That was the end of Dragon Ball Z. I believe it was 1996, around that range, where the original airing of Dragon Ball Z began to end. A lot of people say, oh, wait a second, but then Dragon Ball Super came out. Dragon Ball Super came out maybe 10, 15 years later after the ending of it, and that was because of the success of Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods. Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods caused the wide-spanning narrative of, we all remember how good this was, how about we bring it back? So everybody brought it back with Dragon Ball Battle of Gods. So there was a break there. There was a big break in between that. So Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z is very simple. It's a very simple narrative. As a matter of fact, Dragon Ball Z's narrative is very simple. It goes Sand Saga, Frieza Saga, Android Saga, Cell Saga, Buu Saga. That's the 5 main characteristic arcs, basically spanning on the course of about 3 main centralized villains: Frieza, Cell, Buu. That's pretty much the entirety of what Dragon Ball Z is, and you could simply watch that in maybe 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks, if you really dedicate yourself. You don't even gotta watch the entire thing. There are easier ways to consume it. As a matter of fact, they condensed it and cut it down in the Dragon Ball Z Kai, so you can watch it in a very easy spanning way. But to say it has the same length as One Piece, the same time is going on, is a little bit ridiculous. I've seen this argument pop up and predicate online spaces saying, well, Dragon Ball Z and One Piece have been going on for over 20 years. That's not true. Dragon Ball Z took a break. Dragon Ball Z took a big break. There was a huge break in between there. That is as if I went to work, right? I went to work, and then I worked for exactly 10 hours. And I did a crazy amount of work. Everybody followed my example. Everybody did that. But then another guy worked for 20 hours straight. I did 10 hours. Then I came back to do a 4-hour shift and still did as much work as he did, but I only did a significantly less portion of time. I didn't stay there the whole shift. I left. I left midway through the shift. Granted, my work is completely the same as the other person's. However, when it comes to the actual time length spent, people recognize the pedigree of the person who spent more time there because he has a more consistent work ethic, as opposed to me, who took a literal break for a long extended period of time. That is how I feel about Dragon Ball Z. And oftentimes I hear what Dragon Ball Z is, man, I wish there was more of it. Right now, we are in this incredible drought of Dragon Ball content, despite the fact that we have Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, despite the fact that we have Xenoverse 2, which is getting constant updates, despite the fact that we had Dragon Ball Kakarot. All these 3 games, to me, are amazing games in the Dragon Ball sphere, and despite the fact that we have a re-announcement of the continuation of Super, and we have a manga by Toyotaro, he is making the Dragon Ball Super manga at the current moment because of the sad passing of Akira Toriyama. I apologize, don't want to mispronounce his name, but I'm talking about pronunciations of things. So this is the entire span of Dragon Ball. I know it front to back. Want to know why? Because I became obsessive over the idea of a continuation of Dragon Ball, because I needed more of it. In order to further illustrate this point, let's talk about Naruto for a moment. Naruto spanned same about length as Dragon Ball Z, not really that long. It went initially, start off with the Land of Waves arc. That's the first thing, Zabuza. Then Chunin exams. After Chunin exams, Naruto learns the Rasengan, then Sasuke leaves. That's basically the entire 3 main characteristic things. 2-year time skip. What happens after the 2-year time skip? Pretty basic base narrative, fun extension parts, but super simple. Naruto saves Gaara. After that, Sasuke has this whole villain arc where it goes there. Akatsuki is basically the main thing. Naruto versus Pain. After that, guess what happens? Most of the Akatsuki gets annihilated. After that, bada bing, bada boom, 4th Great Ninja War, end of the series. Very key narratives, very simple. Even with Bleach, which is also a contender for the big 3 when it comes to the 3 big narratives of the 3 big shows that everybody watch, Bleach always illustrated its goals correctly. As a matter of fact, the biggest thing why people don't want to get into the length of One Piece is because there is one main centralistic goal of One Piece. With Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball, they found the Dragon Balls fairly easily. Dragon Balls were found initially, they made their wish, and that became a relative plot point within the greater scheme of Dragon Ball. The Dragon Balls were a constant background piece to make up for the mistakes that happened. Later, we got other ways to make up for the mistakes that happened, and even other variations of the Dragon Balls in order to expand the narrative. This caused an insane amount of power creep to happen within the series, but that's the entire thing there. Naruto. What is the main goal of Naruto? Obviously, to become the Hokage. You know what Hokage is. It is perfectly illustrated to you. The Hokage is basically ninja president. He's the Barack Obama of ninjas. We get it. We understand that. We grasp it. We know that. We put down a narrative. We grasp it. We know what's going on. Bleach. When the Soul Society arc started, everybody said we gotta save Rukia. We get it. When the Hueco arc started, they said we gotta keep Aizen. Let's do it. When the Fullbringer arc happened, Ichigo got back his powers. And when the Quincy arc happened, everybody said, okay, I guess we are taking out the Quincy's. This is pretty much the entire thing. We figured it out. They explained the base thing. One Piece has a big issue. What is the One Piece? As a matter of fact, explain what dope fruits are and how they came to an effect of the world. We don't have those answers, because the story encourages you throughout the entire narrative to question yourself, and people don't like being introspective, and if you don't like being introspective, you more than likely shouldn't watch One Piece. It is not the length of time that makes One Piece an issue, because Naruto is, for more than likely, people want more Naruto. People don't want more Boruto. No, people barely read Boruto. They hate that. People are reading Boruto because they want any Naruto content they can possibly get. People wanted the past explained in Naruto. As a matter of fact, a big contingency point in Dragon Ball Z is Yamoshi. They say, oh, we want Yamoshi. We want the first Super Saiyan. That's what we want. We want that to happen. This is going to be crazy. I want this. I want that. I want the past explained. That's what people want indefinitely. That's the goal of what we want. They want the Five Nights at Freddy's effect. They want the past explained to them. They want the background area of everything explained, but that's generally not going to happen. We're not going to get that when it comes to Naruto or Dragon Ball Z, because we need to get things to escalate. We need the next strongest thing. We need the next big villain. Even with Bleach right now, with the Can't Fear Your Own World novels, we have that. If you don't know what the Can't Fear Your Own World novels are, they're in the continuation after the Quincy arc, the 1,000-Year Blood War arc of the greater confines of what is going on within the Bleach story. They're an amazing series of light novels, and they're really fun. But people are so hungry for more content, they often will do anything to absorb more content because they have this deep sense of nostalgia with these franchises. With One Piece, you never have to worry about that. As a matter of fact, I'm completely caught up to One Piece, and I'm reading through SVSs that I didn't even know existed, and I just discovered not too long ago that there is an Ace light novel. There is no drought of content, but people often complain about the length, when length is not the issue. Length has never been the issue. People, when they catch up to a series, are deeply invested, will want more. That's why we got Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. We got side series upon the top of other series because we craved more. That's why we have Game of Thrones and another Game of Thrones series. That's why we get spin-offs of other series, because people crave more from that very same franchise. It isn't an issue of, oh my goodness, we're running out of things to watch. We're we're running out of things. It's the fact that the starting aspect of everything is the issue. And this is where I say that this is where people, if you want to watch One Piece, have calloused their mind. This is where I say don't watch One Piece. If you don't go to the gym, if you don't do your morning routines, if you don't eat every day, if you skip breakfast, more than likely you should not start One Piece, because One Piece is a commitment. And if you have commitment issues, don't start One Piece. Never start One Piece if you have commitment issues, because it takes time, it takes effort, it takes skill, it takes something that you genuinely don't have inside of your body and soul. And that's fair, because who's going to spend that much time doing all this nonsense? Who's going to spend all that time learning about this guy who's made out of rubber? How'd that happen? Yo ho ho, he took a bite of gum gum. No one's ever going to do this insane dribble drop. No one's going to do this gobbledygook. No one's going to spend that time. So I say that length is not an issue though, because when you actually get into the base of it, when you get into the meat of it, that's a bad argument. One Piece is not too long. One Piece values you caring about the journey more than the end goal, and people care about end goals. Whenever you start anything, whether it be cooking something, you want to get to the end goal. You don't care about chopping the onions, you don't care about cooking the chicken, you don't care about the seasoning aspects. Those things come and go. What happens is you want to get to the end of the meal because people care about the achievements and the accomplishments. One Piece asks you to do the strict opposite. One Piece says, hey, how about you care about the journey? No, we don't want to care about the journey. We want to see the end goal. We want to see the big battle. We want to see the big thing, because the common person, the average person, is more interested in the power scaling aspect of how it operates. Now we can talk about power scaling. So with Dragon Ball Z, let's start off where Master Roshi blew up the moon. I don't know if you guys remember that. Master Roshi just straight up blew up the moon. Oh, this wasn't in the Frieza arc. This wasn't in the Cell arc. This wasn't in the Buu arc. This was early Dragon Ball when Goku was a kid. So we set a precedent for right here where Master Roshi has the ability to destroy and annihilate the moon. So how do we get up from there? Well, naturally, we got somebody that can blow up the earth. King Piccolo. King Piccolo can destroy the entire earth. But then as soon as Raditz gets in there, blowing up planets, that's cakewalk. That's easy work. Well, what's bigger than planets? Well, galaxies. We got Frieza, who has galaxy destroying potential in the final form and has no issues blowing up planets. We see that indefinitely. The power scaling is going crazy. As a matter of fact, power levels get tossed out completely in the android saga, where these androids are so strong and so destructive that Frieza is seen as cakewalk to somebody that is having issues with the androids. That is Trunks. He comes in and he just destroys Frieza indefinitely. That is a childish little notion in its capacity. No one cares about that at all. After this little debacle happens, what happens next? Well, this little fracas goes down and, well, Vegeta gets his arm broken despite achieving a crazy form of power. He achieves Super Saiyan, one of the forms of legend, something that he's craved his entire life, and thus it feels as though powers and numbers aren't even getting measured at this point. What is Vegeta's power level when he gets his arm broken? What is the android's power level? Nobody cares. It is only known when Cell says at one point that he has enough chi inside of his body, to destroy the entire solar system. That is what is stated there. And then we get to Kid Buu, who can potentially destroy the universe, and they're ripping open dimensions just by yelling at each other. And that's pretty much the entire basis of what happens in Dragon Ball Z. This is power scaling indefinitely. And that's a pretty fair escalation. We understand that completely. We grasp it. We know what's going on. We figured out what's happening there. Naruto, pretty much same deal. We get it. Zabuza is weaker than Gaara. That's what we're assuming right there. That's what we're seeing right there. It seems as though, because Gaara seems to be this absolute demon who can actually summon a one-tailed beast, but then the nine-tailed beast has more tails, who is stronger than that, but then Jiraiya, who is stronger than this person, and Orochimaru, who is stronger than this person, and then we have this, who's stronger than this, and it just keeps going and going and going. It goes up and up and up and up and up. Higher in scale, big explosions, big things. Even with Bleach, this happens. This happened with Hunter x Hunter. This happens with every series where it comes to the confines of the next threat has to be bigger. However, with One Piece, that doesn't really happen. As a matter of fact, a very canon arc in the entire thing is this guy. This is Foxy. I know we're going to comment on body structures about One Piece characters later, but this is Foxy. Foxy, for all intents and purposes, has no strength in any capacity. He is here there to introduce a concept known as a Davy back fight. A Davy back fight is a battle in which you have a battle with another crew member or another crew in order to take crew members indefinitely. That is the aspect of what's happening there. So this is a little bit strange and a little bit odd, because this happens after they fought Eminem. Eminem had the power to control lightning. He had the ability to control the actual sky. He could hear everything on the islands. He could blow up an island using the power of thunder, the rumble rumble fruit, the Goro Goro no Mi. It was actually insane insane how powerful this devil fruit was. And Luffy destroyed him because rubber cannot get affected by electricity, so it really wasn't that much of a battle for Luffy. So that's what happened there. So how strong is Foxy? He should be stronger than this person, right? Wrong. As a matter of fact, I'm going to explain to you a big discourse that's going on in the One Piece community right now to give you an example of why power scaling in One Piece is not linear and doesn't make any sense. This is Marco the Phoenix. Marco the Phoenix is a pineapple-headed man that can turn into, well, you guessed it, a phoenix. Marco the Phoenix ate a mythical Zoan, and he is considered to be as strong as Blackbeard. Blackbeard, at least the world government believes he is strong as Blackbeard because they said that Marco the Phoenix is the only person that can stop Blackbeard in his tirade. However, this guy, Edward Weevil, is said to be as strong as the world's strongest man because it is said by this guy, who is an admiral, that this guy, Edward Weevil, back to him, has the abilities and capabilities of a prime, this guy, the world's strongest man, who has the ability to shake and destroy the entire world. Now, this is not known whether it's with the Dough Fruit or without Dough Fruit. We've never seen this guy right here actually fight. I know you're going to comment on his body. Let's get past that. Let's just keep moving. Let's not worry about his body and why he's built like an actual Killer Bean. We're not going to worry about Killer Bean here. Despite the fact that Killer Bean is a cinematic masterpiece, it's free on YouTube. You should probably watch Killer Bean, one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my entire life. We're not going to worry about that. What we are going to worry about is the fact that if this Yonko commander is as strong as Blackbeard, who is considered to be now a Yonko. Now, this Blackbeard right here, he actually damaged this guy, the one-armed God King, who is known as Shanks. Shanks has the capabilities of what is considered the strongest Haki. So, why is Shanks damaged by this guy who's considered this guy? That means Marco should be able to damage Shanks, right? We grasp that, right? Wrong. That's not true at all. As a matter of fact, this isn't even close to true because we have somebody like here, Kaido. Kaido is a Yonko. Kaido is known as Jason Momoa in the community, and Kaido is Kaido of 100 Beasts. Is he weaker than this Yonko commander? Then this Yonko commander should be even scaling to him, right? Because they're both Yonko. But these are all just titles. For instance, we have a title known as the world's strongest man. This is Whitebeard. He wields a Naginata. Now, because he's wielding a weapon, we have an argument here that the world's greatest swordsman, Mihawk, is greater than the world's strongest man. But that's not true, because Mihawk was stopped by this guy, Vista, who is said to have same equivalent swordsmanship skills to the world's strongest man. Now, this is very interesting here because the world's strongest man and the world's greatest swordsman are in two different planes of power, it seems, because the world's strongest swordsman wanted to test his abilities by using the world's strongest slash in order to test it, and I got stopped by a guy made of diamonds named Jozu. Jozu then proceeded to end up getting stopped by this admiral here. An admiral is considered to be the same strength as a Yonko to the community, or at least some members of the community, and thus we have admiral rank, we have Yonko commander rank, and then we have people that are in the capacities of a Yonko in general. But then there's one rank above them. We have Pirate King level, who is drastically above all these other people. Or is he? We don't even know. We have no clue. But then we're being discovered, there's actually a rank even higher than that, where there are these immortals in the series, where this thing goes up, and there's even higher tiers than that, where we have people that are in the past, and this thing called the Void Century, where the Void Century, they could have had stronger people there, but we don't know because there's this entire era where this great war in the past happens, and we don't even know what's happening there. We don't know the power scaling in One Piece because it lets you make your own interpretations for things. We don't know if the characters are getting stronger. We don't know if they're getting weaker. There are things they're not doing. There are things that are being left out. They're choosing to use certain abilities. They're being emotionally nerfed, like Kizaru right here. He was emotionally nerfed at one point when he was going to take out one of the people that was one of his friends. There's so much going on within the mental gymnastics of One Piece, all in the aspect and vein of causing discussions. There are a bunch of discussions going on. The biggest discussion in the Dragon Ball community right now that I can think of, there's two of them. Is Dabura, the king of the demons, as strong as perfect form Super Perfect Cell? Who would win in the fight? That's the first big debate. The second big debate is who's stronger out of these two? Super Buu, that has absorbed a strong Gohan, a Super Saiyan 3, and Piccolo, or the same exact Super Buu with none of them inside of them, just chaotic, this child version of Kid Buu. Which is stronger? That's a big debate, all because of the translation of saying this is the most powerful form of Buu or this is the most dangerous form of Buu. The community can't really agree which one it is because people keep saying, oh, this is one of the Daizenshu, this was a super exciting guy. I've been watching people argue about this for 10 years. I've been witnessing it happen because people like Kid Buu because they say, oh, well, Dragon Ball Z always shows the strongest villain next, and Kid Buu came after Super Buu. Well, Kid Buu came after Super Buu because everything got taken out of him. If you were to take 2 bananas and then say these 2 bananas are greater than this half banana here, and somebody disagreed and said this half banana is actually significantly more protein packed, you would argue with them. And thus, that is how the Dragon Ball Z community views this argument. I'm pretty sure you guys know where I feel about this argument. I think Kid Buu is the most dangerous because he has no reasoning or logic, and he has a crazy well of energy, but I don't think he's stronger than a combination Cronenberg Frankenstein beast of a fusion mecha of Ultimate Gohan, who is considered to be the strongest character in the Buu arc, and then Super Buu, and then a Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, and then for some odd reason they think is weaker. I don't grasp that. I'm not really understanding where the logic there falls in place, but that is what happens. That's the biggest debate they can have, and seems to be pretty cut and dry to me. But I gotta remember that the common person doesn't know the sun is a star. That's a big thing there. So One Piece has a big issue with the power scaling and power creep because nobody knows where it begins, and you shouldn't get into One Piece because if you're not certain, if you don't want to have these wide-spanning discussions and lose some brain cells upon arguing with people saying that, well, Mihawk doesn't have a black blade because he painted the black blade and it doesn't make any sense. Well, actually, Luffy's not going to reach Power King level. Sanji is stronger than Zoro because, let me explain why Sanji is stronger than Zoro. Alright guys, let me explain it right here. Whitebeard is actually worthless. Whitebeard is the worst person that ever exists. I know you're probably saying this right now. You probably don't understand Whitebeard sucks. Whitebeard actually got hit by a bullet, and we see here Kuma in his flashback when he got shot. Well, he didn't get affected by bullets. That's the big issue there. We're witnessing just anecdotal evidence all around over and over again from nonsense and gobbledygook over and over through the span of the series. And if you don't want to argue, lose brain cells, rise your blood pressure, One Piece is not the series to get into it for that. So let's talk about character development. So Luffy does not develop as a character. I know this is going to sound crazy and psychotic, despite the fact that there's been 1,000 episodes, but he is the same to his core as he has always been indefinitely. He has been the same rubber boy that bounces back and comes back and strikes back indefinitely. That is how he has operated the entire series. Zoro has primarily remained the same exact character. Usopp, you would assume, would gain some confidence throughout the entire series because he is the boy who cried wolf. He's the liar character, and to some people, he is black. You would assume that he would gain some form of gravitas, some bravado, but nope, he's still scared of everything. Nami. Anyway, Sanji is still a pervert. Sanji is indefinitely still a pervert. Nothing really changed about him. He's actually gotten worse as the series progressed when it comes to his woman-touching antics and how he operates. I don't like Sanji that much, and people were saying, oh, you're a Zoro fan? No, I don't like Zoro either. As a matter of fact, my favorite character is Luffy. I like Luffy because if you give him a brisk drink, if you give him a Ritz cracker, if you give him a brisket, if you give him some mac and cheese, he will topple the government for you, and I appreciate that. That's just amazing to me. I enjoy the nonsense that he confines and how he runs and annihilates and destroys. I appreciate that. That's super fun. This crew of people, Frankie, Brooke, Chopper, Robin, now Jinbei, all these people that are on the crew, Anthony, Helicopter, all these characters that are confined within it, basically don't change their core roots of personality. They only become more of the character of what they are, reaffirming their own status, because it is not a character journey. It is a journey. It is discovering your weakness and living within your own pride and ego and having that be in that capacity of what you are. Very similar to Baki the Grappler in how they really don't change how core root they are as a character. They just become an expanded, more dramatical caricature of their base personalities of how it operates. For instance, Roronoa Zoro. He is, without a shadow of a doubt, a wandering samurai. Wandering samurais are often lost on their journey to become the greatest or to battle many powerful foes. So his gimmick is the fact of the matter that, well, he gets lost a lot. That's his entire thing. He is known for getting lost. Oh, Zoro has a horrible sense of direction because he's a wandering Ronin. Oh, that's so cool. Luffy always comes back. He bounces back. He is a airhead. He often does things that are very cartoonish and ridiculous. He is wacky. He's much like a rubber hose cartoon. Then he literally becomes a rubber hose cartoon. That's actively what happens. He just becomes a caricature of what he is. Nami is really good with navigation and the weather. So she literally is able to control the elements and the gods of weather by having them within her staff. That's what happens. She controls Zeus. That's what happens later. Usopp is a coward. He's really good at marksmanship and he's great at creating things. So he makes fantastical, weird things in the beginning, such as the climb attack, which is the thing that Nami uses, and then later in spanning ways, he ends up making these wild, crazy machinations of God against creation in itself. Frankie's a good cyborg, and he indefinitely has the ability to make ships, and he may even become a ship one day because he keeps making mechas and giant things. Robin is good at reading poneglyphs, and she becomes really good at reading poneglyphs even more so. That's pretty much how she operates. She's saw as the demon child, and she is able to summon demons. Sanji is a pervert, and during the 2-year time skip, he was on a island of trans women, and the entire way through on the island, he ran from them the entire time. All he did was run, and he says that reminded me of hell. It was really bad. So he uses hell's memories in order to reignite that demon inside of his body, and because he's a chef, he can control fire. Because how can you be a chef and afraid of fire? You have to be able to cook in the heat. So he becomes an expanded caricature of what he is. And after the 2-year time skip, he becomes so enamored by women that he turns to stone. As a matter of fact, the gimmick ends up becoming reality because he gets a nosebleed so crazy that he needs to actually get a blood transfusion. It's shown that the gimmick, the bit that is happening, is actually a real life issue that's happening with Sanji. It's not some random gimmick. It's not some random thing. So if you don't want the cartoonish elements that are portrayed within One Piece to be the entire core aspect, because despite the seriousness of slavery, despite the horrifyingness of how the world government and the Navy are two separate things, because the world government is much like the US government, and the Navy is much like the police force that enforces it, and that's how it operates, with admirals being something more akin to sheriffs, and that's how it works, where the world government can use them at their disposal, and they're one entity but two separate factions within that same entity. If you don't want a story that gets into too deep political motives, then One Piece isn't for you. Because I know a lot of people don't want to get into politics. They don't want to talk about the grand scheme of how politics controls their life. They don't want to talk about how deeply politics is a small facet of how it works and operates in the grand scheme of how it works. They don't want to look inside themselves and say, well, politics is actually affecting me. I should probably look into it and actually care about my local and state government. No. If you want to stay ignorant to the world, if you want to do that, One Piece is not the series for you, because One Piece will turn you into a revolutionary. One Piece will see the confines and the strings within the system. It will cause you to paint your face with war paint. It will cause you to look at your oppressors and try to strike them down using the force of your friendship and the people and coalesce in the bonds you've gathered around them, realizing that it doesn't matter if you're a fisherman, a long leg, a long arm. It doesn't matter if you're a giant. It doesn't matter if you're a mink. It really doesn't matter if you're a Tontada. It doesn't matter which race you actually are. All that matters is that we take the people at the top, the people that are the dragons, the celestial dragons, the true 1% that hoard all the food. And the only thing that's going to change this is actually revolutionary actions. Protests are nice and they're fun, but what happens even deeper is that people need to actually strike them where it hurts. And that's what happens with One Piece. The revolutionaries are cutting off their food supplies. They're attacking and liberating kingdoms. If you don't want to learn about the aspects of what it takes to actually make reformative change, to actually take the world into your hands and actually become an opposing force in this reality, then by all means, One Piece should not be a series for you. You should stay within your bubble of just enjoying shows, for not getting too deep about it and not caring about the fun confines, because the diametric opposition between the comedy within the series and the actual horrifying political landscape of what's going on in there is such a big difference between the two things. And I think that that is stupid. Who would want to do that? That's dumb. That's actually psychotic. Who would care about doing that? Don't be introspective. Don't do that. Those are the few reasons why you shouldn't get into One Piece initially. Now, this is also a big contingent point of why you shouldn't get into One Piece. This is Steven Universe. Yes, you see him. Look at him. Look at his little body. Look at his tummy that has a diamond inside of it. Yes, that is pink diamond. Now you're probably wondering to yourself, why am I bringing up Steven Universe? Well, what is the plot of Steven Universe? Well, we are the Crystal Gems. We're here to save the day, and if you think you can't, then we'll always find a way. That's pretty much the entirety of Steven Universe. He is trying to stop the basically very authoritarian regime of the crystal diamonds that have destroyed and conquered the entirety of the universe using their cold oppressive gem nature, and they're all women. Every gem is a woman. I don't think, or non-binary, I'm not quite sure exactly. I'm pretty sure they're all femi. They all have very feminine traits. They're all easily identifiable if you looked at them from a wide-spanning thing that they are women. They reproduce basically through gem manipulation. We have Yellow Diamond here, who's a very powerful dictator. We have the sorrowful dictator of Blue Diamond. Then we have White Diamond. I'm pretty sure we should have got Black Diamond because Lil Wayne say black and white diamonds F segregation. We should have got Black Diamond in there. That's how I feel indefinitely. But then we have Pink Diamond. Pink Diamond is Steven. This is the story. Not everything I just described, this character right here, just Steven. Steven relies on no one in the narrative. Everything revolves around Steven Universe. If he didn't exist, the story doesn't exist. As a matter of fact, the only reason there's actually a story is because he controls every aspect of the narrative. There is no plot without Steven. There are side stories and side characters. There's even a whole side series called Lars of the Stars coming out soon. But there is no plot narrative without Steven Universe. He is the main confines of everything within the series. Why is this important? Well, let's talk about Dragon Ball Z. Why does every enemy come to Earth? Why is Earth the big aficionado? Well, Raditz came to see what Goku was doing, and that's Goku. Goku came and popped up. Goku was there. What happened after that? Well, because Goku and Piccolo destroyed Raditz, Vegeta and Nappa appeared, and they were looking for Goku. You guessed it. As a matter of fact, they went out to find more Dragon Balls to bring back Piccolo because Piccolo had lost his life in the encounter so we could get a new set of Dragon Balls. And Goku popped up and ended up angering Frieza to an extent that Frieza came to Earth. And then, because of Goku's past of him actually slaughtering the Red Ribbon Army when he was a young child, and he was actually going sicko mode and crazy with his power pole extend and using the power of actual demons inside of his belly and gullet, he ended up incurring the wrath of the Red Ribbon Army. They made androids specifically designed to, that's right, kill Goku. That's right, Android 16, killing Goku. That's the entire thing. But what happened after that? Well, Cell is made of primarily Goku. That's the entire way of how he spans. He's looking to battle Goku. And then what happens with Majin Buu? Well, the energy of the fight between Vegeta and Goku actually triggered it. Without Goku, Dragon Ball Z does not happen. It doesn't. It just doesn't happen. Well, let me explain something really fun to you. Nothing happens without Naruto in the entirety of Naruto. Without Naruto, there is no Great Ninja War. There is no 10 Tails. There is no 9 Tails. There's nothing. Without Naruto, it doesn't exist. In the Great Ninja War, the only reason they won and actually had a fighting chance was because Naruto popped up and began to go crazy and give everybody a little bit of his chakra. That's pretty much how the Ninja War went. He was dividing and dispersing his chakra among hundreds upon thousands of tens of thousands of people. That's how it works there. This is called the main character syndrome. This is a protagonist driven story. Now, we can look at Bleach as a show that is not protagonist driven, but still relies on the protagonist as a main driving point and wedge for how the story operates, because the story doesn't have any true action without Ichigo actually doing this. Now, Ichigo is a human, a Fullbringer, a Shinigami, he is a Quincy, he is a Visored, he is an Arankar, he is a Hollow, he is everything. This combination human creature thing, this actual biblical messiah child of the series is the reason why things happen. He is the main impetus. He is positioned as primarily possibly being even the Soul King. He is everything within the show. Luffy is not that. As a matter of fact, he's not even close to that. Luffy took a 2-year break and the world just decided to keep going on. Yonkos happened, new positions in authority. If Luffy were to get slain for 400 chapters and then come back miraculously, you know what would happen in the story? they would keep going. There would still be wars. Blackbeard would still be doing what he's doing. Garp would still be doing what he's doing. Everybody would still continue within the story. The Straw Hats are important, but they're not the main thing in the story. There's still so much going on. Luffy can't be there for every single battle. However, Goku can be there for every single battle. Ichigo can be there for every single battle. And Naruto was there for every single battle. Luffy cannot be there. And that's boring. Come on, guys. We don't want this. We don't crave this. We don't have this fun aspect of seeing this character that we want to be our main. We want him to fight everybody. How would Luffy do against Akainu, Kizaru, and Green Bull? How would he do against Fujitora? I want him to fight Big Mom. I want him to fight Shanks, Blackbeard, Kaido. I want him to fight Crocodile again. I want him to fight everybody. I want him to fight Eniru again. I want him to fight against the biggest powers of the world. Who's stronger among these characters? Luffy has to be able to beat all these characters, and he's going to fight them, right? We don't even know who the main enemy in One Piece is. Is it the top of the world government? Is it Blackbeard? Is it Akainu? Is it going to be this reverse? Is it going to be Shanks? Is Shanks actually the main villain? Who knows what it could possibly be? We don't know. We have no clue what's going on within the confines of the story. We're just here to try to figure everything out. This feels strange. I want to know what's going on. I want to know what's happening. This feels gross that I don't know what's happening. Man. Well, I guess we don't know, and that makes One Piece bad because it needs to explain things to me because I'm stupid. It needs to tell me every single thing laid out in a fun MLA format, citations noted, so I can know everything that's going on within the story. I need it to tell me these things because no one likes guessing. No one wants having these second guess battles with themselves and arguing with people that want to have different interpretations of the story. It's too long for that because Oda will forget what he's talking about halfway through the narrative and try to explain it in some weird roundabout way that causes even more questions. Oh, this island is important on a certain island and a specific man at a specific time, being very vague without truly giving things. This is a disgusting way to do a story. It doesn't feel fun to not be actively invested. It doesn't reward you for your patience or explanations of things. It makes you feel like you're gonna have to argue with somebody or reread the narrative and do a fun reread because you missed some small little incremental plot point of people actively doing that. Now, the last point I want to bring up before I get into my very long tangent is the community. So, I don't like interacting with communities. My least favorite thing, my least favorite action to do overall is interacting with communities. Every time I interact with a bigger community, I get upset, I get messed up in my stomach, my head hurts because it makes me feel like I'm interacting with a space of the internet that is stuck within their bubble and it never had opposition. And even if you make a very fun, elaborate point, there will be somebody coming in to sidewind you with the ridiculous thing of all time. For instance, you could say 2 + 2 = 4. So you hate mustard. Alright, let's roll back here. When did I even bring up mustard? How do you feel about mustard? I'm not the biggest fan of mustard, so I was right. You hate mustard. That means I was right about the next thing I'm about to say. 2 + 2 sometimes can = 4. It depends on what 2 you're talking about. For instance, 2 pounds and 2 shirts, that's just separately 2 separate things. Yeah, but you're adding context into my very simple math equation. I'm not really trying to do that. I'm just trying to state an objective fact. Oh, objectivity doesn't exist in this universe. Objectivity is a pure matter of subjectivity. You see, there is no objective truth in the universe. This was told us in Fullmetal Alchemist, where truth can be interpreted in many different ways, hence why he takes many different forms. Who knows what truth could possibly be? Truth is an enigma. Yeah, that's fine, but I'm just trying to tell you that if you have 2 things and you add 2 things, you now have 4 things. But what are those things? And thus you end up getting into the confines of a bigger argument because you just had an entire plot narrative thread based on the aspect of disagreement. You see, a big issue what happens with communication with people is that they don't have an ability to continue their conversation, so they often result in arguing. They will yell at each other and spit and spat and these whole little veins of things. And that's not fun in any capacity to do. As a matter of fact, I was in a Dragon Ball Z power scaling debate server for 3 months. That's all I could take. And they were very horrifying to me. They were mean and evil. They called me stupid. They said that I had a lot of strawman arguments. I still don't know what a strawman argument is. They said that everything I said was a fallacy, and I didn't know what was going on. I just wanted to know, without a shadow of a doubt, why was Beerus holding back. I wanted to know if Goku had reached Beerus level, but people are saying Beerus is potential man, where he's always going to be stronger than Goku because Beerus is the goal that Goku needs to reach. And that, I just didn't know what was going on there. And this will happen within every community, where they will have vast disagreements upon everything, where they say, well, he's strong and cool, but is he stronger and cooler than my character? Anime community debates are basically, my dad is stronger than your dad because my has aura. Gojo can beat Sung Jin Woo by virtue of Sung Jin Woo doesn't have any feats that bring him into infinity, but then somebody will spoil the entire series in order to say that yes, he does, and then there'll be an argument of what is ethical spoiling, and that will become an entire new debate. But people are talking, and that's fun for people. People love community. People love having conversation. People love just spanning and doing these things and having a fun time speaking to each other. And that's cool. That's just fun. People just love talking to each other. That's fun for the narrative. That's fun for community building, because what we crave more than anything is talking to each other more than anything. And that is super fun. The One Piece community is the worst with this. The worst with just talking to each other. The One Piece community is the most toxic, vitriolic, angry, spiteful, ignorant, annoying thing, because they don't care about anything. The only thing they care about is pushing one thing. And what is that one thing?
When will you guys learn that I don't actually use logic when I do these things? I don't care what I read. It's about the agenda. It's not about what you think. It's not about reading comprehension. It's not about the story. It's about agenda. When will you guys understand that? It shocks my spirit every time someone's like, Jay, you're not really reading. You don't understand the story. Oh, I understand the story very well. I just don't care at all. A One Piece chapter 9.
The agenda must be pushed. Zoro and Sanji must have a battle against each other, and we as fans must have this battle against each other. I perfectly understand the Wii narrative. I grasp everything. I know about the political landscape. I have great reading comprehension. My media literacy is phenomenal. But it's boring if we all disagree. It's boring. And I'm sure that you have a lot of arguments going on. The world is in shambles right now, and you're probably looking to have some friends to confide in. One Piece is not the place to make friends. One Piece is not the place to do that. One Piece community is the place to make enemies. Vitriolic, spanning enemies throughout the entire course of your lifetime. People that even after the series will end will still debate endlessly, because Oda could just randomly just collapse right now, and guess what happens? We'll never get the end of One Piece, and now we'll be stuck with what could have been a great epic in totality. So, now that we've gotten the reasons why you shouldn't watch One Piece out of the way, let's talk about the true meaning of why I made this video. Intermission. Long video so far, huh? How are you guys holding up? You guys doing good? You guys drinking water? You guys playing video games with second monitor content? You guys probably don't even know what's going on behind my screen right now. I think I put Mike Tyson on the screen right now just for the love of the game. Not even sure what he's doing there. He's just there behind me watching you guys, looking you dead in the eyes. He's just staring at Mike Tyson right now. He's looking at you. Or maybe you're staring at my subtitles that might have a little bit of wrong words in them. Who knows? Doesn't really get everything correctly. I usually use generated subtitles, but I'm actually going to go through this video and try to get them all correct. I try to be accessible here on my channel, and that's what I appreciate. Since we're at the midway point, I might even put a little advertisement in here. Who knows what's going on? I might get this video sponsored. Don't know yet, but we'll see in the grand scheme of things. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if this video can actually get me out of the breaking point. Now, a lot of people probably aren't going to watch this video, whether it be the 2-hour time length of whatever's going on here, or more so people are going to watch the video because I don't primarily make anime content. As a matter of fact, I don't even know what kind of content I make most of the time. I just make whatever I feel like. That has garnered me an audience of, whoa, we're at 140,000 right now? That's a big number. That's huge. A lot of people. Happy you guys are all here. It doesn't really mean much. You see, what happens sometimes is that I'll produce a short video, and that short video will get me a bunch of subscribers, a bunch of people that don't look into context and don't like being introspective, because I'm not big enough for people to care about the small actions that I take. So they'll see one video from me and assume that's all I'm about. Some people will say, oh, he's about trans rights. Oh, he's a grifter. Oh, he cares about white people too much. Oh, he's bisexual. Oh, he's asexual. They don't care about any of that. They see one video and assume that's my entire personality, because you can gain the entire spectrum of every range of human emotion through an 8-minute video, and you can discern everything if someone's good or bad within a 3-minute video. And that's how people react on the internet. That's usually what happens. A little bit of a strange thing there, isn't it? Isn't that odd how we often use the small little pieces of somebody they decide to share with their lives as a whole entire quantifier of how they operate as a human being? Makes me think about Ashton Hall. You know Ashton Hall, the guy that's running, put a tape over his mouth, put a banana over his face, wakes up in the morning every day, then primarily decides to just actively do his morning routine in a weird, fantastical way with amazing composition shots. The shooting of those videos is actually outstanding. I respect him for that, but he seems like he'd be a little bit of a baby. He doesn't really like the aspect of losing to people. Watch him lose against Speed. That was a little bit of a fun narrative there. Like watching him lose against that. Not really sure why he's so popular. I believe it's because of the ridiculousness of how he operates. I guess virality really gets to your head sometimes, but it really depends if you're ready for virality. Are you ready to do this long haul of making content and videos? Some people will have one viral thing and try to round that forever, and that works sometimes. Look at Big Shaq. Man's not hot. He ended up riding on that for a little bit, but that's not even his real name. As a matter of fact, he wanted to promote his other comedy characters as opposed to Big Shaq because that was an accident that happened there. Sometimes the best moments in our lives are accidents. Sometimes the best moment in your parents' life was the accident that you are. And you should be happy that you're the accident that happened and you got to be here to witness the greatness of the world. You got to experience butterflies. You got to experience the moon, the sun. You got to experience love and loss. You got to experience what it's like to go through struggles and come out of those struggles stronger on the other side, or weaker and more broken. But if your heart is broken, make art with the pieces, is what I always say. That'll be the fun thing. You can't blame your death on your life. That's not how it works. You can't do that. You have to be able to smile through it all, and even when you can't smile, you must. Even if it's destructive to your brain and annihilates your narrative and makes you feel like you're disruptive inside of your brain and your body, you must do these things. And it's hard to have that happen. It's hard to do that when you don't have the introspective desire to believe in yourself. When you look at yourself in the mirror every day and you say, man, this is horrifying. I hate every second of this. I wish something would shake. I wish something would move. But nothing's moving. Nothing's shaking. And you feel like you're a shell of your former self every single day. And you feel like you can't make it anymore. This is where you have to lock in, where you have to find adversity and destroy it. You have to shatter it with every single thing. You have to believe that you are stronger than what you think you're not. You have to be the strength that you wish to be in the future. You have to look to the you that believes in you. That's what you must do. Look to a future version of yourself that has already accomplished this. That's the main primarily focus of Kamina from Gurren Lagann, a mecha anime. That's what you must do. Sometimes anime can make you feel that way. That's what I learned through Dragon Ball Z. Perseverance, hard work, fighting struggles, even if it's your own fault. That's what happened with Goku. The entire span of his story, everything was his fault, and he decided to deal with it. At the end of the Cell Saga, he said, I don't want my trauma to be the response of everything. I don't want my trauma to go into my son. He broke generational trauma by taking Cell with him, and then having Gohan destroy Cell with one powerful move, with a last push from his father to destroy all of Goku's past, which was culminated in Cell, which was Frieza, the Red Ribbon Army, and everything in that variety. That's a beautiful narrative through line, using a physical manifestation of the trauma and showing the journey of personal growth through battles on the outside world. That's a great way anime can do that. That's why I enjoy the medium of animation so much. That's why I enjoy the movie Inside Out a lot. Inside Out does this primarily so by giving personalities and aspects to each little small narrative. It feels fun to have this happen in the grand scheme of things, where they have Inside Out be the main confines of how Riley feels about the world, and how we get to expand and expanse and experience each emotion and how they differently react while having two separate plot points of the inside of the brain. That's why Inside Out is so fun to me. Inside Out 1 and 2 are very good movies. Those are very fun. Naruto, the journey of having everybody doubt you and still finding a way to be annoying to yourself, persevering, being so boisterous and loud to yourself that everybody around you finds you to be a nuisance, but you're doing this as a mask. You're acting out as a mask. That's a fun thing to do. And this comes with many series and many shows, and you can find this in many forms of media. And yet we still reject these forms of media. We reject building ourselves and growing upon our entire lives. We reject growing inside of our brains. We reject it because we don't want to be the things that grow. We don't want to be the amazing things that happen in the world. We don't want to be. And that sucks. You have to be here. This is a gift. This is life. This is fun. This is the intermissionary section. This is the little section where I want you to think about your life, think about yourself, and think about what it means to actually do something you don't want to do. Think about what it means that even if the push-ups hurt, you keep going. Think about what it means that you actually can do that mile. Think about what it means where even if you have POTS and your body hurts upon doing the Stairmaster, even if you actually are disabled and you can't do something, but you still try to do it, it's actually worth it in the long run because you're still trying. That's the important aspect. Think about what it means to actually work hard for a week's paycheck like I do every week. I work 30 hours a week at my part-time job, and I do videos like this, wide-spanning videos that are fun and narratively driven, and I release them every single day. I do this, not for any benefactor of maybe this video will do good, but because I think it will be fun to express my thoughts and share them with the grand scheme of the universe, and expand them with the world, even if I'm screaming into the void. I want to point something out. When I make these videos, I don't script them. I don't write them down. I don't write down my thoughts cohesively, not in any capacity. I try my best to remember every single point that I try to make, and then I continue to speak until my throat gets hoarse, my soul gets tired, and I continue to do this because I'm passionate about this. I'm passionate about speaking. I have nobody around me. There's nobody behind the green screen. There's nobody in front of me. It's just me in the silent, small little room, my office. That's what I have to deal with each time. This is beyond the veil. This is what you get to witness in this little intermissionary period. This is what it is. The little small confines. I imagine this is what it's like to be alone in space. Just be there. With all the medical wirings of the machines, I can hear my computer. I can hear my record going on. I can look at my 3 to 4 screens. It's 4 technically because I have a little side tertiary screen. It feels lonely. But I know it's not lonely, because eventually 2 people are going to watch this. And among those 2 people, one of them is going to comment. That's going to make me feel good. I'm going to get 1 like. And it's going to make me feel amazing. And it's going to feel fun. That's going to feel good. And as long as I can get that 1 like, I'll keep making videos. Even a dislike to show that, hey, this could be better. And one day I'll make a video with 0 dislikes. And one day I'll make a video with nothing but likes. And one day I'll make a video with nothing but dislikes. And I'll know to do better next time. And that is the growth period of what you must take with yourself. And that is the growth of what must happen in your soul and your life. That is what it takes to be stronger than everything around you, to be stronger than what you think you're not. This is the hardship, the great quiet battle with oneself. You blame your existence on other people. You try to change the world so you don't change yourself. You can only play video games at your 9 to 5 from 9 to 9:30. You don't get to enjoy things. Feels like you have to get these login bonuses every day. You can't complete the battle pass because you forgot, because life catch up on you. You have to do bills. You have to worry about finding a partner. You have to feed your kids, your dog. Have you fed yourself? And I don't mean food. I mean motivation. Because motivation is like hunger. You got to do it every single day. And it's tough. You know what I do every day in the morning? I go in the mirror and I talk to myself like a personal workout coach. I yell at myself every day in the mirror. Every single day. And it's tough and it hurts. And I critique myself every single day. And I'm crying at the end of it. I'm crying, yelling at myself doing that. And then I smile and wipe the tears. And then I say I'm going to be better than what I just told myself. And it gets better each day. I cry less and less and less and less. And it's fun. It's fun to critique yourself. It's fun to look at yourself from an outside perspective and try to think about yourself from a third-person narrative as opposed to not critiquing others. Think about what you want in the future and how you should operate. Think about that. Think about the fun of what you could have. Think about being the freest person to ever exist. Think about what the main protagonist of One Piece wants to be. The freest on the seas. Now, the intermissionary period is technically over, but I'm going to explain what we're going to talk about within the next hour of this video. I have told you countless times over and over again to not watch One Piece. And I do mean that. I really do. If you haven't started One Piece at this point, don't watch it. If you haven't started One Piece by now, if you haven't taken the plunge in this jumping into the ocean, don't start One Piece. Don't start One Piece if you think it's too long. Don't start One Piece if you don't want to get involved in a long-spanning narrative that could possibly be the greatest epic to ever exist. Don't start One Piece if you think Monkey D. Luffy is going to be the main character of the entire narrative. Don't start One Piece if you want time on your hands. Don't start One Piece if you don't want sadness inside of your soul. Don't start One Piece if you refuse to get emotionally invested into every piece of every small portion of every narrative of this wide-spanning thing. You should not start One Piece for any reason other than wanting to witness greatness. So if you do not want to witness greatness, I cannot encourage you to start One Piece. I cannot tell you that it is the best thing I've ever witnessed. I cannot tell you that it makes sense 200 years later. It doesn't do that. One Piece makes sense the first episode. One Piece gets good the first episode. One Piece is amazing the first episode. I will now explain to you why you shouldn't watch One Piece in a very roundabout way. Let's start. This is Sanji with a lollipop. Now, I don't know Sanji's last name. I believe it's Vinsmoke. Sanji Vinsmoke with a lollipop. Sanji, for every confines and every single semblance of the word, is not eating a lollipop here. This was an animation made by the 4Kids parody. Now, the 4Kids version of One Piece is primarily how I got into it. I got into it playing games like One Piece Grand Adventure, One Piece Grand Battle. I ended up getting the Japanese version of One Piece Grand Battle to play Grand Battle 3. This is my journey through One Piece. And then I stopped completely because the 4Kids dub chose to not do anything with it. It was very interesting. It just stopped randomly, so I didn't know where to continue from there. Randomly, my brother approached me and he knocked down my door. He came through and said, "Hey, I gotta tell you something really important. You know what's happening?" I said, "No, I don't know what's happening." And he said, "Whitebeard is grabbing the air by the titties." And I said, "Huh?" He said, "He's grabbing the air by the hips and he's shaking it and he's smacking that thing." I had no clue what he was talking about. So I went to the library in order to know what he was talking about. We rode our bikes to the library. I used his thing. He gave me some library headphones and he showed me Whitebeard, powerful man, grabbing the sky, or more so grabbing the air, gripping it, and shifting the Earth's axis and tilting it. It was outstanding. He made a giant fall and then he made a bunch of earth-shaking quake. I watched Luffy be scared and visually impressed by being at the heights of the world. It showed me the peak of what One Piece power could possibly be. But this wasn't the peak of One Piece power. This wasn't the war of the best. This was beyond that. This was what the best was before the 2-year time skip. This best got deeply shattered halfway through the narrative of the 2-year time skip, and then got shattered again where we're at currently in the story. The power scaling continues to go up, and I enjoyed that. But I started with this goofy nonsense, and I imagine a lot of people started with the 4Kids narrative. And if you started with the 4Kids narrative and thinking, why'd they do that? Because One Piece primarily is super goofy. It is disgustingly goofy in everything that it does. It makes a lot of sense in the grand scheme of the world of One Piece, but every single span of aspect of what happens within One Piece is facilitated on the aspect that you have to have a suspension of disbelief. For instance, Luffy and Brook lose their bones, or more so lose their teeth. They drink milk and they grow their bones back. Why does this happen? That's just how One Piece works. There are things that you have to express and explain. Do bullets work in One Piece? Well, sometimes. Sometimes they can destroy the world's strongest man. Other times they don't even work against this guy. That's how it works. That's just how One Piece is. There are certain things you can't explain within the series and the show. There are certain things that you just have to enjoy and experience. And you're so curious about the end point of the why. You're not even curious about what's going on in front of your face. You're witnessing mysticism. What you witness in One Piece isn't some small thing, isn't something where you can see and have it commonly explained to you. We still don't know exactly where One Piece Devil Fruits explained are. We don't know yet. We still don't know the origin of everything. In a span of 1,000 chapters, so many small things have happened, but that's life. That's how life works. I remember when I was younger, I wanted to start working out. It was my favorite thing to do. I used to be a big tub of lard. Now I am pretty good. I have less loose skin than I had when I was younger, and that was pretty fun. I'm very happy to be where I'm at currently right now. But what happened when I was younger was I was big and I didn't want to work out. Walking hurt, my chest hurt, everything was bad. So my dad and my brother ended up taking my bed and mattress, putting my mattress in the middle of a forest, and they had me navigate through the entirety of Toledo, Ohio to get back. And I didn't know the landscape of the land. I didn't know where to go. I had to walk back my tubby, small little body. And they did that because all I did was complain about myself. That's all I did. I was not introspective. I didn't care. I think this lesson that happened when I was younger was probably the most important moment of my life. I walked 27 miles as a child back home. I was maybe 13 years old, 14 maybe, and I walked that entire span. I had to grow confidence to ask people for directions. I could have taken the bus, but I didn't have any money. I ended up asking random people for random things. And could I have been kidnapped? 100%. Could have happened. It could have been a horrible moment for me. Could have been a whole nothing burger of my life. Could have been immediate gone. But it didn't happen, and I'm here. And I got back home after 13 hours. I got back home after 13 straight hours. Upon taking rides from people, upon traveling, upon getting food from strangers. It took me a second. All to discover that the park they put me at was less than 1 mile away from my house. because I didn't know what was going on. But a span of that journey, I had gained confidence. I had learned to speak correctly. I had a lisp really bad, and I had to fix that by opening my mouth. I had to fix that by correcting my teeth position. It took me a long time to get this fixed. It took a good second. It was horrifying. And right now I have a little bit of a lisp right now because I have Invisalign in my mouth. But throughout the journey of me getting to my end goal, I gained a bunch of skills. And that's One Piece. One Piece doesn't tell you, oh, you're not going to reach the One Piece anytime soon. It tells you that along the way to the One Piece, I want a swordsman. And to get the swordsman, I have to stop an oppressive tyrant. This is Morgan's. Luffy had to destroy and annihilate Morgan's to get Roronoa Zoro. Roronoa Zoro didn't want to be with pirates because he felt like pirates were stupid, but Luffy didn't care about that. Luffy doesn't care about anything. You pretty much get the entire confines of the characters right here. This is everything you need to know about the characters. You can jump in anytime you want to. Luffy doesn't care about the rules. He does whatever he wants to. Base thing, you're going to get that immediately. The story doesn't explain that to you. It shows you. It show doesn't tell. First time we see Luffy, he's in a barrel. And then he punches a woman. Shows that he doesn't care about gender, race, ethnicity. He will fight you regardless. Very Yusuke Urameshi. I don't care if you're a baby or a grandma. You about to get rocked. Doesn't matter what he thinks. That's how it's going to happen. That's how it's going to operate. So, what happens after this? Well, Roronoa is so enthused by the aspect of his ignorance. The sheer power of Luffy to have people listen to him because he imposes his will upon the world. The world doesn't try to happen to him. He tries to happen to the world every single moment of it. His haki, let's explain later. He's imposing his will upon the world. After that, we get another member of our crew, Nami. Nami isn't a true member of the crew. She's manipulative. She's sly. She comes later. We end up taking out somebody named Buggy. Buggy, who is the complete opposite of Luffy, in terms of we see what a bad marine is, then we see what a bad pirate is. We can see both of them. So, this is what happens. We get to see each character get introduced. Sanji loves women, he's suave, and he's very obsessed with them. He's head over heels for all women. We see that immediately. He's a good chef. Whole story, he's exactly this. Doesn't really get expanded upon. He doesn't gain some new sense of self. This is his character development. That's how he works. He just gets stronger with it. He becomes more of that. Same with Nami, same with Luffy, same with Zoro. Usopp is initially shown to us to be a liar, a scoundrel, and a coward. Through the whole story and the whole show, he is exactly that. A liar, a scoundrel, and a coward. That is what he is. That is what he's been his entire life. That is how he's got by. That's how he's lived his life. And that's how he's discovered who he is and how he should operate. That's what he's done. That's what he does. And that's not bad. It's not bad to have your characters not be guessed about, because you don't have time to guess about the narrative weight and impact of each single character. You don't have to do that, because what's going on as he's doing this, Luffy isn't having a training arc in these moments. He's getting stronger through collective and powerful experiences by being himself. He is relying on himself more than he is relying on everything else. While also relying on himself, others rely upon him. He relies on the choice of his gut. He can tell when somebody is good. He can tell when somebody's bad. He relies on that one sole factor indefinitely. Because Luffy is not wrong about his gut. He has lived with his gut his entire life. And he can tell if somebody is bad or good. Even if the world is telling him that he shouldn't do it, if he feels like he should, he should. And the reason you shouldn't watch One Piece is because if you are listening to others, if you are peer pressured, if you allow others to dictate what you are and what you do, you're not going to like Luffy. You're going to hate this character. You're going to find him annoying, insufferable. You're going to hate every second of him on screen because he doesn't listen to others. He could do this so much better if he just listened. No. If you don't have confidence in your ability to make your own decisions, to trust your gut, to trust your intuition, you're not going to like Luffy. You're not going to like the main focal point of what the story is trying to tell you. This guy on screen right now, Luffy, he's trying to tell you something really important. He's trying to tell you that even if you don't, he doesn't care. You're going to believe in yourself. He's gonna do it. He's gonna make it happen. Even if you think he can't, he will. He willed it into existence. He believes in his own strength more than anything. And he cursed his weakness. At the War of the Best, where he lost his brother, he cursed his own weakness. He cursed what he was. He cursed everything. It was the first time we saw his character shake. The first time his character was truly challenged. Even when he almost died against Crocodile in Alabasta, he still decided to continue to fight. Even when going against the god in the sky, he didn't doubt it for a second. When going against Navy admirals, he still fought tooth and nail. When going against the world government, he said he's going to oppose that. Usopp, shoot down that flag. That's what he did. There wasn't a single moment of stop in his go. When he went, his hesitation never became a full stop. His hesitation never existed. Upon every arc, Luffy immediately goes to the worst person and says, "Are you the main villain of the arc?" And hits them. One of the most iconic moments. There's not a choreographed fight scene in the confines of One Piece. One Piece is rarely ever so about the fights. As a matter of fact, you rarely ever hear people talk about the fights of One Piece. People often more so talk about the political landscape, the power scaling, what's going to happen next in the world, when's it going to shake, when's it going to shift. This is One Piece. One piece of the puzzle to get to the next step. One piece of the pie that you understand. One small piece of the narrative that you're actually combining and looking at when there's so much more going on. You're only getting one piece. That's all you're getting. Because the rest of the world is still happening. And that's a perfect allegory for life. You know what's happening in life? Indefinitely? Right now, there's a war going on. Gigantic war happening. Right now, my friend is fighting for his life with a horrifying battle with cancer. I visited him 2 days ago. Right now, my boss is debating on making me manager because he cares that deeply about my wages, and he knows managers have a cozier time at Amazon right now. Right now, I am curious how I'm going to pay my rent because I've decided to help out a few of my friends. I never talk about the things that go on in my life that deeply, despite the fact that my channel is mostly my past. But I have faith in myself that I'm going to make it through. I am literally living paycheck to paycheck. I am actively trying my best to do whatever it takes to make this work. I want to make things. There's a deep sense in my soul to create. And I will continue to do so because Luffy showed me how. He didn't say, "I wonder if I'm going to become the Pirate King." He said, "I'm going to become King of the Pirates." He says this every time, no matter what is going on. The man who will become the King of the Pirates. The man who will become the King of the Pirates. That's how he operates. That's how it works. And you shouldn't watch One Piece if you don't want somebody that's that confident in themselves. Confidence scares you. If confidence makes you feel uneasy. If ego destroys you, you shouldn't watch One Piece. Shouldn't watch this. You should avoid this show at all costs. You should avoid every second of this show. You shouldn't watch any second of what this beauty is. It's not that you don't deserve to witness it. No, not at all. It's not that you don't deserve to see the confines and greater scales of what One Piece does. It's the fact that, why would you? When you haven't done your dishes or your laundry, when you haven't believed in yourself in years, when you're still struggling, same as me, we're on the same struggle. Want to know the difference between me and you? I can fake it better than you. That's it. No real difference between us in most capacities. I just fake it better. I have schizoaffective disorder. I hear things all the time. I have horrifying moods. I'm in a depressive mood right now. I don't feel like making this video. But you know what I'm doing? I'm making the video. I'm not manic right now. Pretty sure you guys can tell when I'm manic is when I'm in a span of speaking in a fast way where I don't make any sibling mistakes or stumble upon my words. However, I'm speaking slower and more cohesively because I waited to get in this depressive mood to make myself feel better, to remember Luffy. And if you don't want to rely on escapism from shows, you don't want to rely on somebody that you can't talk to, if you don't want to rely on the faith of witnessing greatness and peak and perfection, that is One Piece. You shouldn't watch this. Also, a big reason you shouldn't watch this is the people that are One Piece glazers. One Piece has a bunch of glaring issues overall throughout the entire narrative. There are things that don't make sense. There are things that don't loop back into each other. And Oda will try his best to reasonably retcon and make things make sense throughout the entire span of the story. That's an important thing that he tries his best to do. He is trying to make everything make sense. Why didn't this person do this during this scene? Why didn't he use hockey here? Why didn't he do this? He could have used this. Why is this person so weak? He tries his best to explain every single piece of the narrative to the best of his ability. Because, much like Akira Toriyama, he didn't expect it to go this long. When you have a vision in your mind of something, and you have to improvise and make things up on the spot, it becomes incredibly difficult to tie in the other pieces. Back to when I was talking about when my dad left me in the middle of the forest. Why was that so important for me? That was important for me because when he left me, I decided to start working out because my legs hurt really bad. I'd actually broken 2 of my toes upon walking that much. I had shin splints. It was really bad. It hurt like crazy. It was not fun. So, ended up icing my feet, ended up going to the hospital, ended up getting band-aids all over my toes because I had destroyed my toenails because they fell off. And a week later, when I felt a little bit better, I began to start jogging every day. I began to run. I began to do weightlifting and working out. And I went from 250 pounds to 190. I slimmed up. I was bulky. I was bigger. I was happy. I felt strong. I felt tough. I felt like I was in my strongest era of existing. But I didn't care about the end goal of working out. I didn't care about getting a better body initially. My goal was simply to not have pain happen that extreme. And I did whatever it took to get there. Very loose goal. But throughout me going to the gym, I found a girlfriend at the gym. She worked out a lot, and she found my perseverance and resilience amazing. I found a group of friends, a community of people that taught me proper form and technique, and that was cool too. I had discovered a group of people, an entire coalition of people that spent all their time in the gym, all their time living, witnessing what the gym was. And these people became my friends. To this day, they're still my friends, and I have lifelong friends because of the journey of what I went through. That is what it means to watch One Piece. That is what it means to be a part of the experience of One Piece. And I know what you're going to say. I thought this video is why you shouldn't watch One Piece. And I agree. You should not watch One Piece. I'm not here to convince you to watch One Piece. I'm giving you the information about One Piece. And you are deciding for yourself if you should watch One Piece. Please don't watch One Piece. Because you had to click on this video to justify your own points. You saw this video right here. This is the thumbnail of the video. You saw this video and you said, hold up a second. I have an idea. I'm going to click this video because I want to see why you shouldn't. And there are some fans that are in the comment section that didn't even get to this point are saying that I'm talking over myself and saying, oh, he's just glazing One Piece. No. I'm not glazing One Piece. I'm explaining what it is. Oftentimes, I'll hear people say, it gets better 200 episodes in. Oftentimes, I'll hear people say, oh, this is dumb, this is stupid, this is cartoony. I don't like the voice acting. I don't like this and that variety. This is very important about my One Piece journey. The first time I watched One Piece was the 4Kids dub. First time I ever witnessed it. After that, I saw the Whitebeard scene, and then I didn't watch the anime. As a matter of fact, I didn't even consider watching the anime. I went to the library that had volumes 1 through 37, and it was missing about 6 volumes in between there. And I read it. I read every single One Piece manga volume. I just read every single one of them. I just decided to sit down and read them all. That's all I did. I sat down and read every single One Piece chapter at my own pace. It took me, I think, 3 weeks maybe? Not that long. And I was at chapter 700, 800, around that range whenever Dressrosa was going on. That's when I got really caught up to One Piece. And then I was caught up. Didn't take me that long. I did it sideways. I didn't dedicate my entire life to watching slow pacing and animation. I didn't see any filler besides the Davy Back fight. I didn't see any of that. So I deeply encourage you to not watch the anime. I don't know what's going on over there. Sometimes I'll check in on the anime to watch a good fight scene. Maybe the Luffy versus Lucci fight, which was greatly animated. Luffy versus Kaido. That was a great fight that was animated well. I went to go check in on that. When Luffy punched a Celestial Dragon, oh, that was cool. When he just, boom, Gipple-gopped him, oh, that was outstanding. I love that. I witnessed those things. But when it comes to every single other piece and facet of One Piece and witnessing the greater story and its whole totality, I am not in no way, shape, or form watching it. I'm reading it. I'm digesting it with my eyes at my own pace. I control the story. I didn't have any expectations of how the characters sounded. I didn't have this slow pan of animation because it's quick, witty, snappy, and there are certain things that can only happen on the medium of manga, and I enjoyed it in the way that the original artist intended for me to enjoy it. That's what I enjoyed, and that's what I witnessed. There's a few things that I hate about common anime nowadays. It's a big reason why I like Solo Leveling a lot. Solo Leveling, for all intents and purposes, has only one anime trope: the overpowered protagonist. It doesn't have unnecessary panty shots. It doesn't have crazy fan service. It doesn't have the main character having a harem of 20 women. It doesn't have a lot of overzealous reactions of it doesn't have that. It has a character that feels slightly grounded and scared of death, but not to the point where he runs away from death. Death becomes his friend. He becomes used to it. He fights on the edge, a daredevil of a person, and that's why I enjoy Sung Jin-woo. He is a very great character, or Sung Jin Woo, as some might say. So that is why I enjoy Solo Leveling. Do I think that it is aura farming the anime? 100%. Do I think the animation carries a lot of it? Easily so, 100%. But when I was reading the manhwa on Webtoons, the art was amazing. I would feel embarrassed if the art wasn't going this good. And when I was witnessing One Piece, I didn't like a lot of the anime tropes. I didn't like Nami hitting Luffy. I didn't enjoy Luffy being loud and boisterous and obnoxious. I didn't like Sanji's pervert gag. I don't like Master Roshi's pervert gag either. I think that is a boring and wasted trope. Same with Jiraiya from Naruto. I think they are all just stupid, annoying tropes in anime. I don't like the anime voice. The okay, okay, I don't like that. I don't. Big point of why I didn't get into anime a lot when I was younger was those things. But One Piece did something. It made me look past it. I was so enveloped in the story of what was going on. I was so encapsulated upon everything that was happening in front of me. I was so into it that I didn't even fathom it. I didn't even recognize that it was happening in front of my face. From the stupid jokes that were happening that I never laughed at, from the fun little witty quips that happened throughout the screen, there was no single moment in One Piece that made me think, I have to stop this right now. It showed me my own insignificance in the world. And you shouldn't watch One Piece if you care about your human significance. If you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, think that you are a protagonist, think that you matter in the grand scheme of things outside of yourself, then you shouldn't watch One Piece. Luffy is shown time and time again that he is disgustingly worthless. He has shown that he was not ready for the height of the world. He has shown that sometimes that even if you do help a country, it does not work. He has shown over and over again that even if he is doing this little work to help Alabasta, to help Dressrosa, to help Punk Hazard, there are still wars and famine and destruction. But his goal is not to be a hero. His goal is to help his friends. And that is an important narrative lesson to me. Your goal in life should not be to cause an incredible amount of change. You will cause nothing. You will be left at the altar of disappointment, looking at the vows of regret, hoping that you will get married to the idea of change, only to be divorced by the aspect of it. You will lose everything and be left away and swept with nothing in the grand scheme of the world. Because the world, much like in One Piece, doesn't care about Luffy. A lot of people often comment and say, if Luffy's this amazing person, how come the biggest person in the world didn't stop him earlier? Because there was so much going on in the world that nobody cared. Yeah, Luffy took out a warlord. Yeah, Luffy revolutionized a small city. No one cares because he's just one pirate. There's still Eustace Kid. There's still Blackbeard. There's still all these other pirates doing crazy, wacky things throughout the entirety of the One Piece world. Luffy is just here. He's just here. He's not really doing anything immaculate. He's not doing anything outside of the confines of, oh, it's just another pirate doing something stupid. He's just doing things. And people aren't going to waste all their resources to just take out one worthless, insignificant thing. Same way when you go outside and you think everybody's looking at my outfit, everybody's looking at you. No one's looking at you. No one cares. Your anxiety is going to get inside your soul and your mind and think that people are going to think about the interaction they have with you. No one's going to think about the interaction they have with you. No one's going to go out of their way to do that. Nobody's going to say, oh, I guarantee this person's going to stumble over the words and stammer. Yep, they did it. No one cares. No one on this planet genuinely cares. And One Piece shows that in droves, countless time and time again. When the Straw Hat Pirates disappeared for 2 years, did they send out a search party to go look for them every single day? No. Trafalgar Law was collecting 100 pirate hearts. Blackbeard was rising through the ranks to become a Yonko. The world government was going through issues with the Revolutionary Army. The Navy, in totality, was just actively and refutably just having horrible power struggles within their admiral system, to the point where they caused a war on an island between two men that changed the forever geography of it, and the climate changed forever. That's what happened. That's the reality of what the world is. It doesn't care. And One Piece has shown me, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that no matter what action I take, I should do it for the people around me. I should do it to help those who mean the most to me. And if it affects the world in some way, that's good too. That should be secondary. We should all work together to make the world a better place. Do you like yourself? Are you confident in yourself? You need to stop taking on the problems of others around you and deal with the problems within yourself. Luffy focuses on himself first. He focuses on what he can change so he can be strong enough to do so. During that 2-year time skip, he said to himself, I am weak. I need to be stronger so I don't lose any friends ever again. And thus he worked on himself, confident enough to say, all right, I'm not going to lose anyone ever again. Don't worry. And he didn't. He didn't lose anyone ever again. He didn't lose anyone. He didn't lose anybody important to him. He didn't lose anybody directly tied to him. He didn't lose because he took time upon himself. That's an important lesson. That's important because he didn't stop every country from being overtaken by a vicious dictator. He didn't go around stopping everything. He's not a hero. He's only a hero to himself. He is a king to himself. He is a conqueror to himself. He hyperimposes his will upon the situations to himself. And if you don't want that, if you don't want to work on yourself, you don't want to grow, you don't want to be more than what you are, don't even think about starting One Piece. As a matter of fact, stick to everything else. Stick to any show that is outside of One Piece. Stick to Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, all these shows that rely on the main character syndrome, so you can feel like you yourself are just this small enclosed person that's deeply misunderstood by the rest of the world. You are so vastly unique in the grand scheme of everything you do, and you are the protagonist, and you deserve to be worshipped, and you deserve to actually have everything without any work, because most people don't want the truth. They want validation. Most people don't want anything besides that. They just want to be validated in their own misery. They want acceptance. They want relatability, and they don't want hardships. That's what people want. They want people around them that agree to their disability. They agree to what they are. They agree to their detriment. Their own detriment is their own self sometimes. Let's take, for example. Let's say you say, I have autism. All right. That means I can't. Stop right there. Just slow back right quick. You have autism. Yes, you recognize you have autism. Yes. Social interactions are going to be harder for you. There are things that are going to be harder for you. But does that mean you can't do it? Oh, no. Cool. I used to think that people in wheelchairs couldn't play basketball. They can. There's a whole wheelchair basketball league. And I lost to a guy in wheelchair basketball. He was in a wheelchair. He was really good. Caught me off guard. I had no way to beat him. He was outstanding. But me saying I had no way to beat him means nothing. And I tried to play him in his own field. I got in a wheelchair, and I lost even harder. Don't even know why I did that. It was worse than me being on. It was worse on foot than in a wheelchair. It was insane. It was psychotic to witness. I didn't know. He was traveling the whole time. It was crazy. I didn't know what was going on. But I did it. I tried. I used to think that a lot of people didn't have the capability to do a lot of things. But if you are doing 100% of your best, if you're doing 100% of what you are, go beyond that. All Might said it. Go beyond plus ultra. Whatever you think is your best, do more than that. Because if my best against world famous football player Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't get a single score on him, then I gotta make my best better. That's just how it works. If I am told in my relationship that I'm doing my best and trying to accommodate for everything that she is, and still not working, then by all means, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work out, is it? One Piece is a story that deeply tells you that you must have a deep level of introspection. One Piece is disgustingly political. One Piece is one of the most political stories of all time. If you don't care about politics, if you don't care about shattering the world, if you don't care that the world is being run by the 1% at the top of it, then by all means, One Piece isn't going to ring home with you. One Piece is not going to ring true. One Piece is not going to resonate with your soul. It is not going to inspire the revolutionary within it. You know there are racist One Piece fans? There are people that are racist. Like, they hate black people and Mexicans, and they're One Piece fans. There are people that hate white people that are One Piece fans. That is crazy. This is a fun example of why, if you're a One Piece fan, you shouldn't hate white people. This is a fun thing. You know Sabo is a celestial dragon? This guy, Luffy's brother, he is a celestial dragon. He is a celestial dragon. And more than likely, Shanks right here is more than likely a celestial dragon. He's more than likely a celestial dragon. These are characters that are loved in the series and loved despite the circumstances of their birth. The circumstances of one's birth shouldn't decide who they are. That's Mewtwo. That's Mewtwo from the Pokemon the first movie. That's a quote from Mewtwo. The circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant. That's the whole thing. That's Mewtwo. It's a lesson taught to you in a Pokemon movie. A monster capturing game that got turned into an anime. It was a game first. This Pocket Monsters. That's where it started. There are One Piece fans that are racist or prejudiced, because I know a lot of people don't like when I say racist when I'm talking about white people, so I'll say prejudiced. But the fact that I think they're the same thing, I'm just not gonna argue with you guys, because I'm not gonna be in the comments arguing. You guys are gonna be in the comments arguing. I'm not gonna be there. I'm gonna be making more videos Probably another 5-hour video or something like that. Who knows what I'm gonna make next? It's random here. I just feel like I just make whatever I feel like during the day. Who knows? I still gotta make 3 more videos today, by the way. That's the whole thing. This is my journey through One Piece. This is what it has been. This is the life that I have lived. And I want to tell you something. I'm gonna get rid of the images real fast. I want to tell you something really important. I decided to make this video when somebody asked me, should I get into One Piece? I said, nope. And they said, what? But you've been reading and watching One Piece for a while. You're deeply invested? I said, yeah, it's made me cry. It's made me change the way I am. It's actively taught me life lessons that I didn't suspect. It's really amazing. I think it's one of the best things I've ever seen. But if you're asking me if you should start One Piece, you shouldn't start One Piece. And he said, why? And I said, why haven't you started it yet? And then he told me what everybody always says. It's too long. 1,000 episodes and they haven't found the One Piece yet? Are you more concerned about the end of the journey than the journey in itself? Is that what you're concerned about? Are you more concerned about that? I asked him. He said, well, no, it seems a bit long. I just don't understand what they're still doing. You'd understand if you watched it or read it. And he said, I don't have the time. And I said that you shouldn't watch One Piece. Why are you asking me? If I told you yes, you would still have the same excuse of you wouldn't have time. Why would you ask me? He said, oh, I guess, yeah, fair. 2 weeks later, he told me that he made it to Arlong Park. He said, this is the greatest piece of fiction I have ever witnessed. And he had been reading it like I had told him to do before, 3 years prior. And upon reading it, he had this deep love for it. And upon every scene that he thought was important, the walk to Arlong Park, the battle against Arlong, he went to go see the animated set pieces of those things. But outside of that, he just was happy that he was witnessing One Piece. You know what's crazy? He caught up. He's completely caught up now. As of today, he's completely caught up. And we don't talk about One Piece. He just goes back and read SBS's. And he's reading the Ace Light novel now. And he's fully hooked. Had another friend who said, I gave up on One Piece. I said, oh, why is that? He said, too much filler. I said, okay. He said, not gonna comment on that? I said, it probably is too much filler. I wouldn't know. He said, you don't watch One Piece? I said, not really, I read it. He said, oh. So I told him to read it, and there's no filler when reading. So he read it when the part he left off at, and then he went back and read what he missed and said it's wildly different. I didn't know it was like this. And I said, yeah, I'm happy you're enjoying it. I'm not going to encourage you to witness something you're actively rejecting. I'm not your father. I'm not a parent. You're a grown man. You're a grown woman. You're a grown person. You're grown. You should know that you should eat your veggies. You should know that you should brush your teeth. You should know that you should jog and stretch. You should know these things. If you need some psychopath on the internet with crazy hair to tell you how to live your life, then by all means, what have you been doing the entire time? Is it hard to be introspective? Is it that difficult? I didn't realize it was that difficult to realize that you're making a mistake. I didn't realize it was that difficult to realize that you shouldn't throw your keys. I didn't realize it was that difficult to realize and witness that maybe this isn't the correct way to do things. This is life. And in life, you are going to make a wild amount of mistakes. You are going to ruin a lot of opportunities. You are going to break things. You are going to destroy things. You are going to build. You are going to create. You are going to have war, love, peace, fury, vengeance, acceptance, heartache, heartfulness. You are going to leave religion, go back to religion, leave religion again, have somebody tell you that if you're not following the right religion, you're going to hell, and then you're going to get gaslit into thinking that's the correct thing to do, and you're going to feel at peace because you're part of the community, but who knows if you're in spiritual psychosis. You're going to be told that Jesus is king your entire life by people who have no idea about the other religions and say that those are worthless and you shouldn't worship false idols. You're going to spend your entire life doing many things like that. There's going to be some psychopath in the comments saying that I offended him with that statement. There are going to be psychopaths in the comment that get offended by a Jesus joke when I say, you think he used those hand holes to pleasure himself? There are people that are offended by everything but make jokes at the expense of other people. Endlessly, countlessly, until you say something that personally affects them. That's how humans work. That's how we work. We don't care about anything unless it's personal to us. We don't care about anything unless it personally affects the grand scheme of what we are. That's how we operate. And that's why One Piece is not for you. Because I'm not here to tell you to do something. I'm not here to dictate, instruct, or correct behavior. I am not here to tell you the obvious. One Piece has the pedigree of going on for over 20 plus years. Non-stop, mind you. No year-long breaks. Nothing of that variety. Oda takes random breaks. He does little breaks in between in order so he doesn't get completely burnt out. But he has been continuing non-stop. Your favorite show doesn't do that. It doesn't. Baki took a break. Dragon Ball Z took a break. Bleach is done. Naruto, all these shows, whatever it may be, they took breaks. They got reboots, remakes, all that stuff. Hunter x Hunter, endless breaks. That's what happens. One Piece, Eiichiro Oda, he has continued non-stop without any breaks. Think about that for a second. I want you to think about that. You could say that there are shows that have gone on for 25 plus years. You could say that, yeah. But have they stopped? Have they been remade? Have they been re-edited? Have they been reworked? The main story of One Piece is the most impressive narrative epic I have ever been a part of. I am a piece of it. I don't care what the One Piece is. I don't care what the end of the series is. Not anymore, no. What I care about is learning. I want to know about the world political state. I want to know about the world government. I'm curious about the past of everything. I'm curious about every piece of it. I barely care if Luffy is on screen. I only care as if we are getting more One Piece. And beyond a shadow of a doubt, we are definitely getting more One Piece. So if you are curious, if you should be a part of this, you should hop in the driver's seat and actually whip around and see the scenery, the scenic views of everything, and witness what I consider to be one of the greatest epics to ever exist. If you're still on the fence sitting, not picking a side of watch or don't watch, then you should not watch it. I want you to stay there, look up at the sky, and witness us riding off into the moon, into the sunset. And I want you to stay at ground level and realize that we've extended you a hand. We've told you for years. This is a great point to get in the One Piece. We've explained to you and expressed to you countless times. You already know what Gear 5th is. You know what this stuff is. You hear Luffy has the power of the Toon Force and you say, oh, well, whatever. I guess the story doesn't make any sense. You see these weird, wacky designs. You see a character with a thick neck like this. See this neck? See that? See this character with all these weird contortions? That's Scratch Man of Pooh. It's part of the Long Arm tribe. You see a character like this and you think to yourself, meh. You see a character like Mac Vice. You think he looks weird. You see a character called Baby 5. Why is she called Baby 5? Because she has a horrifyingly tragic backstory where her mother didn't care about the names of the children and her name was literally just Baby 5. You see a character like this is Senor Pink. Why is he dressed like a baby? That's weird. Doesn't make any sense. That's stupid. This character has the most tragic backstory of all time about why he's dressed like a baby. Wife went into a shock because of his own actions, and the only thing that made her even have a slight reaction, or made her have even a slight, ever so slightly reaction, was him dressing up like their deceased child. And that made his wife have a small reaction, so he never took that suit off. There are characters that have so much narrative weight and impact in the story. There are characters that have so much backstory within this, and they're just side characters. They're just a small piece of a greater, wide-spanning narrative. And that's how you are. You're a small piece of a great, wide-spanning narrative with your own journeys, your own feelings, your own expressions, your own opinions. You look pretty cool. You're amazing, I think. I think that you're awesome. I think that you know whether you should start One Piece or not. I think you clicked on this 2-hour video to keep me in the background while you play video games. I think you're not even looking at the screen right now, and that's okay. I don't care if you're looking at the screen. That's not really important to me. I can't dictate what you do. You're a grown person. Nobody's going to sit there and watch a 2-hour video. You're probably watching this on 1.5 times speed, 2 times speed. Who knows what you're doing? I have no clue. I can't figure it out. I can't figure out your analytics. You might have skipped this video because you said 2 hours. That's too long. Same with One Piece. That's too long. I'm not going to click on this video. Despite the fact that I spent, at the current right now, more than likely, 7 hours editing this video. Trying to get everything fun and visually pleasing and stimulating for you. Gathering images ready up to get this thing all pushed out. Who cares? Nobody cares about the background processes of anything. No one cares about the narrative through points of everything. They just want the big gravitas. They want the big animation. That's why Jujutsu Kaisen is popular. That's why Demon Slayer is popular. That's why the animation carries everything. That's what matters the most. The push to the next step. The push to the greater narrative. The push to the bigger confines of the story. That's what matters the most. This is what it means to be a One Piece fan. To know that there are backgrounds going on. To know that everybody in the world of this One Piece world, this is the map of the One Piece world, that everybody in this world has something important to add to it. Every character, all the wide-spanning characters that are within it, whether you are some side Tushiri character that appeared for one chapter, whether you're Panda Man who pops up randomly in some spanning chapters that Oda draws in, whether you have no backstory, and we're waiting for your backstory. All of these things are deeply important because they're you. Every One Piece character is you. Senior Pink is somebody out there who's trying to make their wife smile. Luffy is somebody who's trying to change something within themselves so they can help their friends. Zoro is somebody that's trying to be a better version of himself, the best at something. Sanji is somebody aimlessly chasing after women. Usopp is somebody not confident in themselves, lying to somebody. Jinbei is somebody that is devoted to the cause of everything and wants things to be better. Nami is somebody that is sneaky, manipulative, and uses their looks to get by in life, and uses their ability to manipulate and money hungriness in order to make their life a lot easier. Everybody is somebody to someone, and that is what One Piece teaches you. And you shouldn't watch One Piece if you don't want to be anybody. If you're okay with being in the background at Tushiri, that's good. Because in somebody else's story, you're the main character. Somebody else's story, your narrative spans throughout years, eons, and epics. Your narrative is truly important to them. They love you. They love every span of you. They love the way you smile. They love the way your hair falls on your shoulders. They love the way you get smelly sometimes. They love your morning breath. They love the horrible things you do. There's somebody out there for everything and everyone, but you have to be out there for yourself. You have to be out there, not grinding 9 to 5 every single day. It's not the point of human existence. Not making enough money to do everything ever. Not being rich and famous and becoming the biggest YouTuber on the planet. Oh, I want to become like iShowSpeed and Kai Cenat. Not what it means. It's not the journey of everything. Those people are rich and famous because they do virality and stunts and they have the energy for it. You don't. And that's good. You may have accidentally gone viral once on TikTok or Instagram. You may have accidentally done something outstanding. But people have the same thought you have about One Piece. I don't want to get too invested in this person's life. And oftentimes, we forget. One Piece is diametrically opposed to how the public views the relationship with media. With media, we see it for a moment. We doom scroll. We are fast with it. It's immediate. We don't see it for too long. And it's out of our hair and out of our pictures. And if we don't have some overstimulating things such as Subway Surfers on the screen to keep our attention right there on the screen, We don't have some noise, something to stop the static. So I don't have a single moment of non-stimulation. We don't have something like that. And by all means, there's nothing, and there will be nothing. Sometimes you don't have to be organized. I did this entire video with no script, no bullet points. I'm just talking. That's all I've done. That's all I'll ever do with my entire life. I will keep going, despite the fact of everyone telling me, slow down and take a break. No. Until my life is gone, until the chasm of my chest stops beating, that is when I shall take my break. It'll be a long-deserved break that will have been earned throughout the accolades that I have achieved in my entire life, and I will be happy and thrust upon into this existence in a way that many people will hopefully have some fond memory or some evil, disgusting, nasty memory of me, whatever that may be. I do not know. But I am here. All Might, I am here. And the reason a lot of people won't start, on themselves even, is because they have a fear of commitment to consistency. They want the cake without the ingredients. They want fast food in their own home. They want DoorDash every single day. That is what they crave. They do not crave the hardship, the part where nobody's gonna watch this video, the part where nobody's gonna stay until the end, the part where nobody's gonna care about the fact that I chaptered it, the fact that nobody's gonna care about the fact that I edited the entire thing by myself. And sometimes that's what it takes. I don't have an editor. I don't have somebody to do subtitles for me. I don't have a team of people that I pay to do everything. I don't have this long, extensive list of moderators. I don't. I don't think I ever will. It does not matter to me. I am here because I want to be. I am watching One Piece because I want to. If you are willing to take a dive into something that you are fearful of, if you are willing to get into that relationship despite the fact that it may hurt you, if you are willing to start a job despite the fact that you don't know where it's going to go, if you are willing to work out despite the fact that you may not get the muscle results you want, if you are willing to stay consistent and committed to the everything that is your life, if you are willing to stop making excuses and start just taking deep dives into things. Oh, I can't do this because of this. I can't start One Piece because it's too long. I can't go to a walk in the park because my feet hurt. I can't meditate because it's too loud in the house. I can't make videos because I have to script them out. I can't because. If that is how you start your sentences, then do not watch One Piece. Because it will change you. It will make you wonder why you ever made excuses in the first place. And it doesn't take some mythical devil fruit. It doesn't take some wild, expansive way to get there. It takes imposing your will. It takes putting your hockey out on the world. And you may not be a conqueror, but you can be observant, I'm sure, with observation hockey. And you may not be observant, but I'm sure you're strong-willed and you can put your will upon your body and strengthen it with armament hockey. I'm sure that there's something out there for you. I'm sure that there's something in One Piece that you can relate to and hold on to because there's so much there. And if you find nothing within the series, and if you tried it once but it's not for you, if you looked at the end of forever and you've said, I am good at the beginning of now, by all means, do not start. Because your hesitation has become a full stop. That is perfectly all right with me. I am here for you. And that is okay. Because I'm not here to tell you that this is going to be the most amazing series ever. I'm not here to tell you that you're going to love every second of it. I'm here to tell you that I'd be fun to go on a journey with you. I'd love if you became my Nakama, my friend, upon this journey. I would love it if you started One Piece. But please don't. If it took me this 2-hour video for you to understand that I would love it if you watched One Piece. Thank you so much for being here. At least this wasn't too long for you. I would like to let you know a few things about myself before I get up out of here. Thank you so much for sticking to the end of the video. I did not do a lot of cuts. I did this all in one singular long uncut up take. It was just one big long take. If you saw me any cuts between the span of my voices, that's because I legitimately had to go through what is now, I'm looking at my recording time, 2 hours and 15 minutes of recording time. Would like to also tell you something important about myself. I like to stream. I stream 7 p.m. through 10 p.m. Monday through Friday. This is a full-time gig for me. I do this 80 hours a week where I make videos, edit them, all that jazz. And I work a 30-hour-a-week job at Amazon where I get to choose my own hours. It has been pretty fun doing that. I work in Stowe. I am the person that gets to pack your items as well, and I work in pick, where I pick out the items and put them in specific things. That is how I operate. I am 5th in my building right now here in Detroit, Michigan. If you see me in Detroit, do not be scared to say hi to me. I'm more than happy to say hello to you. I will be at many an anime convention. I believe I'm going to Anime Midwest in Chicago. I've heard pretty good things about it from my friends, so pretty happy to meet my friends up there. And I'll be at YomaCon in Detroit, Michigan, and OzukuCon in August, and I believe Huron, Michigan. I believe that's where it is. Outside of that, I don't have anything else to promote. I have a TikTok, an Instagram, a Twitch. I have everything. It is CEROS TV on everything. I put all my content on one channel. I also have a second channel where I post my live stuff. That's about it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for checking me out. And the song you're about to hear is called Like That by Taraj. Detroit artist, amazing work. Thank you. Have a lovely day wherever you unite. I'm out. Peace. Bye.
I'm your nigga night, be my loyal, slow. Ooh, happy to try what you need. Your world, I love to live in it. Ooh, I love the ride when you're free.